folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to use these quilling molds for different types of 3D quilling. I have two here. This one is from a company called Simply Quilling by Nicole. I don't know if they sell these anymore. This is pretty old. And it just features these plastic domes in different sizes. This one has the size in millimeters on each one. And then I have another one here, similar setup with the domes, no numbers on this one, but it does feature these sort of cone shapes as well. This one is sold on the Quilling Superstore website, also known as Craft Harbor at this point. This one's a little bit more recent, and I do still sell this option on their website. But they are both very similar in size, and the way you use them is exactly the same. First, we're going to gather just a couple more supplies. You can use whatever quilling strips you like for these molds. I wouldn't go any thinner than a 1/8 inch width of a strip. You will need to roll this paper first before you mold it. So any quilling tool you prefer, whatever glue you like, I use Elmer's, and a paintbrush. You're going to need to use just a small paintbrush because you're going to be brushing that glue around when you're done. So, to start with, you need to roll up your strip of quilling paper, and this can be any number of lengths. You can use one strip, partial strips, multiple strips together. I'm just going to be demonstrating to start one of these very long 24-inch strips, and I'm going to show how to mold that one on its own first. I ripped off one end of this one. I put the non-ripped end. I'm using the automatic quilling tool for this because I'm going to be rolling a lot of these. So I rolled it all the way up, start to finish, took it off my tool, and I didn't let it open up at all. And that's going to be an important part. You don't want any space between the layers of your coil. You want it to be nice and tight. A little bit of glue on the end, push it over to seal, and let that set for a moment. Once that's dry, you're going to be able to mold it on your quilling mold. And all we're doing is pushing it over the top of one of the domes to get a more three-dimensional shape. You want to normally correspond the size of the mold that you choose with how large the diameter of your tight coil is. So you can see there, I threw this one over a tiny little mold and it only pushed in the very, very center. Maybe that's what you're looking for a particular project, but normally you would want the entire tight coil to be domed evenly, not just the very center. So I moved it down another one. I had still sort of a lip. That one did most of it. Let's try that last one again. Pushed it down over the top of the mold. Still getting a little bit of a lip there, but sometimes you can just even it out with your fingers. Nope. You can still see it's just, it domes and then it kind of just stops. So that means that that one was a little bit too small. So it was the one above that was the perfect size for that dome. Now I'm kind of moving along here because I don't want this video to be super long, but I want to show how you would make a larger tight coil to make a larger dome. And I've done this a number of times in different videos, so this might look very, very familiar to a lot of my viewers who are maybe have done this a load of times with different projects before. But just to recap, I'm going to be gluing two quilling strips together end to end. So I tore off the ends. If you're not familiar, torn edges are good with quilling paper because it makes a nice, smooth seal. You also want to make sure that the pieces are glued in a straight line. If they start to go crooked, you're going to want to take them apart and re-glue them. You can tell right away while looking at it if they sort of don't look like they're completely one straight line as you glue them together. And at that point, I just roll it all the way from end to end, just like I did the last piece. Make sure it's nice and tight and glue down that end as well. So it's just like the last piece, except that instead of just one strip, this is two strips glued together. And then you can figure out what size works for your dome, just like we did the last time. And the more you do this, the more you realize, obviously the little ones aren't going to work. That one's pretty close to the diameter. But when I pull it off, it didn't go all the way down. Again, that might be what you're looking for that project. It might not be. So let's try the next one. Push it down, run your fingers across the top to make it nice and smooth. That looks pretty good. That looks like it's all even. There's not really a lip on the bottom. It is a pretty even dome. So how big can you get with these coils and this mold? It's pretty much up to you. I don't know if you noticed, the first mold that I held up had a measurement on the largest dome on the mold that said that it was 40 millimeters, which is about 1.5 inches across. It's pretty big. This coil here is so big I had to take it off of my tool and wind it up by hand. That's something, if you get into these larger sizes, you'll probably find yourself doing. They do sell tools that are helpful for that, but I don't particularly find they work very well. So here is a really big, tight coil. And let's play around with this one. Which of these domes is going to work the best for this size? That one, didn't really like the look of that, so let's try it again. Now, when you get to this really big size, what's helpful is if you kind of push your fingers from the top down in kind of a smooth motion. Just kind of, just like that. Just kind of push it from the top to the bottom. And even sometimes I kind of just spin it a little bit, and I find that makes it just a little bit more of a smooth dome. And it just makes it a little bit more even. Just kind of smush it down from the top down the sides. Another little spin, a little push to the top to the bottom. Just kind of even it all out, and that is what you're looking for. That is a nice big dome from top to bottom, pretty even all the way around. Oop. So now that you have the shape that you like, how do you keep it that way? You are going to use your glue. And if you have it in a needle nose bottle like I do, that's great. If not, you would just probably grab a paintbrush and apply it on to the mold. If you're going to be hiding that inside part, you're going to put the glue on the inside. If you're going to be hiding the outside part, you're going to put the glue on the outside. Even though this is white glue and it dries clear, we all know at some point sometimes there are little glue bits left over. So however you're using on a project, you want to glue the opposite side. So for demonstration purposes, I apply glue all over the inside of this and then brush it out to try to get every single layer have a little bit of glue on it. And that's what's going to keep your shape together. Now I want to grab that blue mold with the cone shapes on it and just demonstrate that part of the board, because I find that to be a little bit tricky, and I just thought I would give some tips if anybody's unfamiliar with this part and looking for some advice, because I didn't think it was as easy as the circle dome. So here is, I think it's just 3 pieces on this one, and I did a stripe just to mix it up a little bit. And I have found that if you just start pushing it on that cone shape, it just kind of wants to push the middle out in a way that makes it feel like it's going to completely come out of your coil and just ruin your whole piece. So what I found is if I sort of make the shape with my fingers first, not really worrying about it being even or perfect, just kind of getting that basic idea, and then run my fingers down the sides while it's on the mold, it seems to work a lot better. It gets nice and even that way. And I don't feel like I'm losing the middle out of my coil and I'm going to have to start all over again. So that's just a little tip as far as using the cone part of this quilling mold. Do the same thing to keep the shape, add your glue, and brush it out, and that cone will stay in that shape. Here's another couple of more that I was playing with. Little tiny dome, little cones. Again, you can do whatever combination of colors you want to get the effect that you're looking for. But I also want to show some more uses for the mold. I like to mold my flowers in the underside to make them sort of look domed, like they are blooming. So here's an example of a past video where I made this begonia and I glued my pieces together inside the mold and sort of pushed them down, and it gives the effect, like I said, of them kind of in a cup shape, like they're blooming. And then I put them on a stem. I'll link to that full video down below in the description box so you can watch that if you haven't seen it. Another way to use these molds that I think is really fun. And then when the glue dries and you take them out of the mold, they have that little domed look to them, like they're blooming flowers. So lastly, let's talk about what else you can use these shapes for. So you've practiced on your mold, you have all your domes nice and even. What can you use them for? Well, you can make these little cactuses here. Both the pot and the cactus himself are made of 3D molded quilling paper. I also have little mushrooms. The top of the mushroom here is made by two different domed pieces. The bottom is a cone. I can link to both of those projects for the description box of this video. I haven't made a video on these yet. These are an old one from my website. These cherries, again, two pieces of molded quilling paper together to make the cherries. And then I also have another project I haven't shown in video, but is an old one from the blog. This is a bowl that I made out of many, many, many strips of quilling paper. And I filled them up with, rolling around, filled them up with little blueberries. These are kind of messy, but little blueberries in a little paper bowl. All are made by 3D molded quilling paper. I have another video that I'm going to be dropping next week that is going to put in a little bit more detail about how to make the three-dimensional objects. So once you have your domes, how do you put them together to make 3D quilling paper projects? So like that sphere or the cactus or the cherries or the blueberries or any number of things that you can think of. So if you are a quilling mold beginner, stay tuned for that one. Like I said, it's going to drop next week. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments section of the video and I'll answer them as soon as I can. And like I said, I will leave any other videos that you should see in the description box and also any supplies that you might need. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.